Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And welcome to the official start of the offseason. I guess this is kind of phase 2 of our offseason because the Vikings offseason started long ago, several weeks ago, like a month ago, pretty much. So we're pretty deep into offseason discussions, but this is a really fun time of year on this show. If you're new, maybe you joined the show as a fan of the Vikings throughout the season. This is a daily Viking show, 365 days a year here on Purple Daily. And we don't stop once the NFL season stops. In fact, business picks up once the NFL season stops, boys.
We accelerate. And this is great because we've been recklessly speculating and hypothesizing about what might take place with the Vikings. But the problem is, until the season actually comes to its conclusion with the Super Bowl, that's basically all you can do. But now, and you started to see it with some reports on Saturday and Sunday, now business is back open, and that's the greatest part about this. Now you're getting real conversations and real information. I've always said this, I honestly enjoy this time of year probably more than like weeks 2 through 5 of the season.
Yeah.
Because weeks 2 through 5, they're still getting their footing, right? The games can lag a little bit. They can be good, but they aren't necessarily. This is just where everyone has to be on point. I love this stuff.
Yeah, just like the idea as a fan of how do you make your team better? What moves should be made for the immediate future, for the long-term future? In this case, this is the first time since, 6 years ago, since the Vikings hosted the Super Bowl at US Bank Stadium. It's the first time that they haven't had a starting quarterback under contract going into this time of year. Mm-hmm. So there's just so many possibilities. But we're going to get into, so we have 2 episodes of Purple Daily for you today. This one is going to center around the latest Vikings news, reports, rumors, and speculation from Super Bowl weekend. And then we'll give you more of a broad, we'll talk about some different Super Bowl things. We'll do a hard count episode for the second one here. So before we get to anything, Judd, tell the audience about our favorite pit stop, Quick Trip, baby.
That's right. And it's our favorite pit stop because it's not just about one thing. Right there, you're looking at the delicious offerings that are available at Quick Trip. And I remind you, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you can get those at Quick Trip. But here's the great thing. And guys, especially like for me, I'd like to simplify your life, right? Well, guess what? You also can stop there and fill up the old tank. Quality gasoline guarantee. That's right. Quality. Every drop of gasoline that goes into your car, Quick Trip guarantees it's going to be exactly what you expect. And that is such a nice thing. Peace of mind. And again, you can also just stop in there and get whatever you need. Quick Trip is the official sponsor, and we appreciate that, presenting sponsor of Purple Daily.
Okay, boys. Let's start with the latest on Kirk Cousins, the latest news, the latest insiding here. I'm going to read you a quote from our good friend Tom Pelissero, our old coworker Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. So he went on one of these. It was the NFL Network pregame show, but it was one of these like millions of hits that they're doing to fill 10 hours of pregame programming. And Tom said, quote, "The Vikings would like to re-sign Kirk Cousins, but Cousins will have a strong market, he believes. Even at age 35, coming off a torn Achilles, Minnesota is examining all options in the event Cousins ends up landing elsewhere. In fact, if the price tag goes too high, the Vikings would likely pursue a more economic veteran as a bridge quarterback." He then mentions Sam Darnold by name. So Pelissero only mentioned one potential bridge quarterback by name if they can't sign Cousins, and it was Sam Darnold, backup for Brock Purdy, where the Vikings could, quote from Tom, "hope that the veteran bridge guy becomes this year's Baker Mayfield while also buying them time to develop a rookie quarterback." I'll stop there because there's another thing here too, like involving Justin Jefferson, but the name Sam Darnold triggered people all across. I got text messages coming in, tweets, Haven't checked the feedback inbox yet, but the name Sam Darnold was very triggering for a lot of Vikings fans.
All right. So keep in mind, the words, though, are bridge quarterback. So no matter who you get there, it's not going to be a guy that you are counting on to start for 5 years. It's going to be a guy that I'm going to presume that in the world that Tom is talking about, they're also going to draft a quarterback. And keep in mind, too, just for point of reference here, the 2025 QB draft is not very heralded. So I'm almost certain that this entire scenario that Tom just potentially laid out there is a scenario, a world where Kirk Cousins walks away from your team. You then get a bridge. So Darnold, it could be Minshew, but the point being is it's not the long-term fix. And then you draft a quarterback. And look, here's the thing. If that guy shows up at camp, I mean, let's just say for the sake of conversation that Thor is right. Thor Nystrom, our buddy who knows more about the draft than almost anyone, is right. And J.J. McCarthy is the pick, okay? He shows up for camp, and he's clicking. He's ready to go. It's a competition then. So, like, I think we're too fixated on. In 2018, the Vikings signed a number one quarterback to try to win a Super Bowl. It didn't work, unfortunately, and in fact, it's only in the time since then resulted in one playoff win. But I think we're too fixated on, oh my God, Sam Darnold's going to be the quarterback.
We're comparing him to, because Kirk is a really good quarterback,
yeah,
right? So we're comparing him to Kirk.
So I would.
It's very triggering for me too, though. I mean, I don't
back away from the ledge, folks. It's going to be okay. I have a bigger concern that at some point I'd like to get to, and I sent you guys this note as we prepped yesterday. My bigger concern is, and the answer might be yes. So this might all be from the speculation from the outside world. Do the Vikings have a clear-cut plan here? Like, do they have like Kirk, when you told Kirk last March, and Kirk evidently told you, hey, here's the price of poker I'm willing to take, in my opinion, a little bit less. Here's what I'll do. And the Vikings are like, yeah, we're good. Which, by the way, I respected. That's totally their right.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, why are we in this world where we'd really like Kirk back, though? We'd really like Kirk. You made your bed last March. Do you have a plan?
It feels very toxic between the two. It feels like, there were some signals that they were going to break up a year ago, but they kept the marriage together for the kids, for Justin and for Jordan and for Alexander Madison. I don't know.
Sound like TJ. It does sound like kids' names.
And now it's like the Vikings were kind of the ones last year that said, I don't know if this relationship's working. So maybe we should just kind of see if things get better in the coming weeks. But now that Kirk's been out flirting, right? Kirk's out there on Sky Sports. He's swiping on free agency football, whatchamacallit, right? And the Vikings are kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe we would like to rekindle the flame in this relationship. It does feel like there's some uncertainty on the Vikings would like to re-sign Kirk Cousins, is the lead of this Tom Pelissero report. Well, Kirk Cousins has made it pretty clear for a year now that, yeah, I'd love to come back, but my line in the sand doesn't change based on my Achilles injury. I want certainty. I want at least 2 years guaranteed. So how are they going to figure this out in the next month? I mean, it's easy for me. Like, just Kirk,
right?
It's a 1 year deal. If you want to come back, it's 1 year, $30 million. We'd love to have you back. If that's not enough for you, then, hey, thanks for the 6 years of hollow statistics. And that one playoff victory will wish you good luck in Atlanta or Pittsburgh or wherever you wind up, right?
Mm-hmm. So it's a little different because he was still under contract, but look at the dates, too, when Kirk Cousins restructured or reworked new deals with the Vikings. So in 2020, he had a 2-year contract on March 18th of 2020. So probably right, and I don't have when the league dates start in these respective seasons, but probably right around the league date.
It's that week usually, yeah.
And then in 2021, 22, in March of 2022, he signed a 1-year, $35 million fully guaranteed extension through 2023 on March 13th. So, yes, he is a free agent. This is different, right? Like the Vikings still had Kirk Cousins when they reworked or added extensions and reworked the contract. But I do believe if this actually does happen, it's probably going to happen close to free agency. And if the Vikings have had a plan here of, all right, We've tried our first negotiation tactic and it failed. We can try to pick things back up because we still have a month before that free agency window opens. We can still renegotiate or rework a new deal. But also, Kirk has historically always signed right around these type of timelines of when the free agency actually starts.
But it needs to, in my opinion, it needs to get done soon. Like if he is going to, here's what I don't get. Do both sides not know what they want here? And this also involves a very simple question. The simple question is this: Kirk, if we offer you 2 years and we draft J.J. McCarthy, and he is the heir apparent. This is not a Jaron Hall. Well, we hope he's good, but we have no idea, and who knows. This is a your replacement is on the roster, and you are akin to a very good bridge QB. Can you take that? And
I don't think he wants that.
Well, I agree with you, but my point is then it's just over.
But even then, like if you're the Vikings, why would you want that? Why would you? Again, if it's a 1 year bridge is very different than a 2 year bridge or a 3 year bridge. I know a lot of Vikings fans are looking at the Packers and how they've kind of lucked their way into these scenarios for the last 20 years. But I would poke back at that and say, well, who's to say the Packers just dumped all that money into Aaron Rodgers, who he was literally making like $50 million a year with the Packers the last couple of years, while Jordan Love's rookie contract, the sand runs out of the hourglass, and Packer fans do a victory lap like, see, look at this. This is the way we develop. You sit for a half a decade behind the other guy and wait your turn. Well, who's to say Jordan Love wasn't ready to play 2 years ago, and they just wasted a rookie scale contract? Now they're gonna have to pay him, right?
Well, yeah,
so
exactly.
Get into it.
What the Packers do in the current day and age of how the system works makes no sense because so Jordan Love, they didn't, and I mean, this is rare. They kept him, but they didn't pick up the 5th year option because he basically hadn't played. They lowballed him, and now they're going to have to pay. So yeah, if you draft McCarthy or you draft a first round QB, that 5 year contract is part of the strategy. It's not this, well, let's let him cook while Kirk plays. But Phil, I'm with you. I don't think Kirk Cousins wants that. Like, I think this is a very simple discussion. Kirk, here's our offer for 2 years, or to your point, a year. Do you mind being basically what amounts to a bridge? And I think he would say, I prefer not to be. I see myself as a viable, I mean, there's a reason why that the man has never had any competition brought in here.
Because he can't handle it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You remember that slappy from the Calgary Stampeders. This was very instructive. Like 4 years ago, the Vikings brought in a CFL guy, just for a workout. But he was pretty good. And he basically said, I think they said, what's your goal here? And his statement, I think, was to take Kirk's job. And they're like,
he said, I want to be a starting quarterback.
You're out of here. No way. We can't do that to Kirk. So
no,
anyway.
You're here to be an assistant coach for Kirk.
Exactly right.
You can watch film for him on Tuesdays, and then you can give him the cliff notes.
No, but exactly. So I got a lot of questions about like what's transpiring here.
I think if I'm ranking so the Vikings, again, back to the Pelissero report, and then we'll get to some of this other stuff. There's some Danielle stuff. But the Vikings would like to re-sign Kirk Cousins. And then there's a bunch of buts. So I would rank the scenarios this way. Number one for me would just be, number one would be he comes back on a 1 year deal. Maybe it's a 2 year deal, but it's only 1 year guaranteed. So you can get out from under it after 1 year, and it's for way less than market value. I know he's not going to do that, but that's my number one choice. That'd be great. He can be your bridge quarterback, whether he wants to help J.J. McCarthy or Jaden Daniels or not. Doesn't really matter. He's only going to be here for like a year. Kevin O'Connell is going to be the one that is tasked with developing the new quarterback, right? My number two option involving Kirk, if we're assuming that like they're going to offer him a contract. I think they've probably already offered him something and it's sitting out there, and obviously Kirk doesn't like it. Option number two for me would be a 3 year deal. So you might as well go. If you're going to do it, go. Do 3. So you can shove money into the future and sign free agents this spring. I would rather do that than a 2 year deal, like a guaranteed 2 year deal. Because guess what? A guaranteed 2 year deal, the window isn't flexible enough to me to like shove money into the future.
Yeah.
And it kind of prevents you from taking advantage of a rookie scale quarterback contract. So either be done in the short term now or after 1 year, or go long term again and roll the dice on a 36, 37, 38-year-old. These little 2-year inflexible contracts they keep doing are crippling the franchise in so many ways. So I'm done with those.
Well, and the 2-year, I would not do under any circumstance. Fully guaranteed? No way. No way. But what I want to know is does this plan exist? Are they just sort of hoping that Kirk comes back? Are they still, this sounds like they're still flexible to Kirk potentially coming back. And yes, if it's at our price, it's fine, but I don't believe the Pelissero report has anything on the term. So are we talking about potentially 3 years now? Because if we're talking about 3 years, are you going to draft a quarterback?
No, you would not then draft a quarterback.
So my point is this: it feels like when you last March made a decision on Kirk's contract, that was going to mark a very important date in the relationship of Cousins, Kwesi, and Kevin O'Connell, and now it feels like they're trying to sort of fudge. And again, I'll come back to my question: is there a plan in place here? Is this partially based on hope? Because here's my concern. So they go to Kirk with a contract, and let's say it's the day before the league year starts, and we're now down the path of, if that starts, then Kirk's entire dead cap hit for 2024 kicks onto your cap, and that's huge trouble. So could they be convinced, because they've certainly been schnookered before by Mike McCartney, Kirk's agent, to be like, okay, let's settle in the middle here. Let's settle in the middle. There's a lot of business dealings and football ops here that I guess I'm growing concerned about, but by the reports I'm reading, I'm hoping that there's something being lost in translation. That's my only thought, is that we're not getting something in the translation here. But, McCartney and Kirk have won these negotiations every single time. And until that door is closed, I become concerned that they're going to win again, and that the Vikings are going to celebrate it as some type of what I would consider to be very hollow victory.
But are you also wanting and asking the Vikings brass to basically come out and say, hey, here's our plan on February 11th?
Oh, no. What I'm saying is,
because we're just we're not going to know until the free agency really, I don't think they're going to show that card either. So we're caught in limbo, and we're trying to pontificate and figure out what the heck they're trying to do. But also, the Vikings aren't, I don't think, going to come out and say, hey, on February 12th today, our plan is to do this with Kirk Cousins either.
No, Judd, if I could speak for you for a second. I think what Judd is saying is, these reports, after the Vikings and Kirk were clearly far apart a year ago, the Vikings said, you know what, we're not really sure about this thing long term, so let's just go into the season and you can become a free agent. They kind of made their decision back then, right? And Kirk has said the entire time, I want term, I want certainty, he doesn't want to sign a 1-year contract. He wants to know where he's going to be for multiple years. The Vikings clearly aren't offering that, and they haven't for the last year or 2 years, right? And so these reports that the Vikings would like to re-sign Kirk Cousins are really fascinating, because if you really want to re-sign Kirk Cousins, you know what he wants. So what's what is this gray area here?
And Dex, my point about potentially some of these talks being lost in translation of the reporting is Pelissero is incredibly well plugged in.
Yeah.
So he's not going to guess about something. He's being told directly by one of the two camps, here's what's transpiring. I wish there was another step that Tom had about, because yes, the Vikings don't want to pay Kirk too much. But the last time I looked at the Cousins-McCartney scorecard, the Vikings, it's been a knockout.
Oh my God!
And the Vikings haven't gotten off the canvas once yet. So yes, I think that there is. I think your point is very, very valid. I also think that there is cause for trepidation here.
Here's the other thing on the Pelissero report. He follows up and says, the QB situation is even more complicated for the Vikings with Justin Jefferson's contract situation, noting, quote, Jefferson is going to want answers to the quarterback position before he signs on for the long haul. Now, answers could mean a bunch of different things, but it could mean Kirk Cousins. It could mean some other plan in free agency, or it could mean a draft pick in the top 11. But I don't know that this is going to become fully clear until after the draft. So we're probably not looking at a Justin Jefferson extension unless they give him like, all right, you want that Nick Bosa plus $1 million contract? Maybe he would just sign it then.
Right.
But this kind of seems like he's going to want answers that might not exist until the draft. So we might be waiting for several months on a Justin Jefferson contract, which is interesting.
And I wonder if that's what, you're probably going to get to this report, but I wonder if that's what spurred the talk of the Vikings going up to 3 to try and get Jaden Daniels at the Patriots pick, because obviously if you did that, I think Jefferson is very pleased. And I guess my question would be this as well. When Jefferson, and one, I'm still convinced that the most important thing is he gets the bag, which he deserves. But I wonder if this also comes down to the fact that, Kirk Cousins, if he resigns, he's going to be 36. So that doesn't really provide, Justin's a young man. That doesn't really provide the type, if I'm going to sign with you for the long term, I need a lot more certainty than the geriatric quarterback that you now employ is going to be throwing me the ball, because one, he did rip his Achilles, and two, that's a very much a year-to-year proposition. Like Jaden Daniels is a solution. It's a potential answer. Kirk Cousins is right now sort of just gluing the situation together, but that's certainly not as far as Justin Jefferson goes, the long-term solution.
Well, let's get into the draft speculation thing here. All right, again, these are like credible NFL insiders that very rarely have opinions that aren't from sources, right?
They're inciting in Vegas where everyone's up till 4 and they're all schnookered.
Yeah, those guys, the conversations that are happening, there's a reason why all this information starts coming out around the Super Bowl, because everyone's together, they're all drinking bourbon together, they're all at nice steak restaurants,
gambling a little bit.
Yeah, they're at the blackjack table. So Dan Graziano from ESPN says, the Patriots need a quarterback. But there are people around the league who believe they are open to trading the number 3 pick, moving back in the draft and addressing the quarterback position in free agency. Interesting. If the Patriots do trade that pick, the 2 teams I would keep an eye on are the Falcons moving up from 8 and the Vikings moving up from 11. Assuming they don't bring back Kirk Cousins. Minnesota knows it eventually has to address the quarterback position long term, and the notion of bringing in Jaden Daniels to pair with LSU alum star wideout Justin Jefferson has appeal to some in the organization.
Okay,
he's not just waking up, oh my God, what do I file on ESPN.com today, right?
So let's try and connect the dots here now, too, because I will say this. Colin Cowherd can say some really odd things and have some bad takes, but he's also plugged in. Like, he definitely has a pipeline in the league.
He, just like for some clarification there, he is texting and phone call friends with like 5 NFL general managers. Okay. He regularly would get dinner with Sean Payton before Payton took the job with the Broncos. He's like friends with people that run NFL franchises, but he doesn't report things. Usually he just like gives his opinion.
Right.
But his opinion is rooted in like a thing that a GM might have told him on the car ride phone call, But he came out with that, I would call it interesting trade scenario, reckless speculation a couple weeks back about Justin Jefferson and the Vikings 11 pick and the Vikings first round pick next year going to the Patriots, which by the way, I don't think is going to take place, but I don't think he pulled the Vikings out of a hat. I think that somebody probably told him the Vikings are calling, and then he probably recklessly speculated what it would take. Yep.
Because to go back to a conversation that I think we probably had this almost a month ago now, and I think Dex brought this up originally, and I agree with it. If you're going to make that type of trade, that ain't a draft night trade. That's a trade that you make in like early March and lock in, which by the way, then Kirk Cousins is just gone. So like and
then Jefferson knows like, okay, this is what's happening, right?
Yep. So I guess my point is this. I think this makes a ton of sense. And going back to a conversation that predates all of these, I think we brought up the fact that the Patriots have a ton of holes. Like the Patriots are the type of rebuilding franchise that probably could afford to trade back and address a lot of needs, like by getting excess picks. It just makes a lot of sense that the Patriots might say, you know, it would be great to get the quarterback now, but we have a lot of positions of need and extra draft picks would actually help us.
Mm-hmm.
So this one to me, this one actually makes a lot more sense than having no plan with Kirk.
Yeah, I wonder though, like trading up to 3 is interesting because you're not in control of how the quarterbacks fall. And there's some steam that Caleb Williams might not be as ironclad number 1 anymore. Is Drake May ironclad too? So I guess if you're trading up to 3 thinking Jaden Daniels is our guy.
Yeah.
And then the Commanders take him second. Would you, but you're not like totally in love with Drake May. It would just be an interesting spot to be in. Maybe would you then trade back a few spots after you've already traded up and just take JJ McCarthy plus the extra second round pick? You know, you can't be sure about who's going to be there at 3,
Right.
I guess, is my main point.
Right. I guess you would probably have to like 2 of the 3 a lot, right? So like if you were up at 3 and you really like 2 of the 3,
yeah,
you know. But the other thing that's weird too, and we've seen this a bunch, and it's just now a yearly occurrence, especially on the draft, you guys, is this. It is incredible how much information gets out to the public and us, but it's not what the information is inside the league. So like I've become very leery of like Drake May might fall a little bit, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like my point is there's always a few guys that the information that's being put out by teams is false or by agents is false. So we hear Will Levis is probably going to be a top 5 pick or top 10 pick, right? But he's privately free falling.
Yeah.
So like there's just a lot of things here. But anyway, trying to make a focused move to get up in the draft to me still makes more sense than not really having prioritized your situation, which I find hard to believe, and just saying, well, number 1, we just hope that Kirk comes back.
Yep, it is, and maybe they have decided already internally. Okay, we know he's not going to take a 1-year deal. He's going to explore the market. So we also don't want to nuke the relationship. So we'll just, whatever.
True.
We'll just leave our offer unchanged, and it'll play out how it plays out. And then one more nugget here on Danielle Hunter. So this is from 2 different ESPN insiders. Dan Graziano we'll start with. He said Minnesota's other business, most prominently a potential new deal for Danielle Hunter before he hits the market, is on hold until they figure out what's going on with Kirk Cousins. If I'm Danielle Hunter and I read that report or I hear that report, I'm not too thrilled about that, right? I get that like you have to prioritize your quarterback situation, but I'm just on hold. I led the NFL in TFLs. Yeah. I've been trying to get a long-term contract for years, and this is like the 3rd off season where I'm just on hold. And then Jeremy Fowler, friend of the show, former Vikings beat writer, ESPN insider, he lists the Bears and Jaguars as potential suitors for Danielle Hunter once he hits the free agent market.
The Bears could easily do it. Can you imagine what Montez Sweat and Danielle Hunter in your division?
It would be bad news. Bad news.
Okay, so I'm with you. Of all of these reports, this one to me intrigued me the most. So Danielle at every turn here has basically been, and yes, he got, rework contracts, but he signed a well below market value second contract, which is his fault and his agent's fault, but still. And now coming off a year where you couldn't have done more, where you could not have done more, you're being told to hold on for, again, a guy whose situation, quite frankly, should be should be known by now. So like, are the Vikings prepared to give Kirk a pot of gold because they panic? Like, why are you making it? It'd be one thing if the report was, well, they're still in negotiations with the Hunter camp. Totally get that. And he might leave, but are you really going to put him on the back burner?
Maybe they've decided, hey, because we could do a deeper dive on this again at some point, but he's 29, and we don't think of 29 as being, on the verge of like falling off an age cliff in the NFL. But as an edge rusher, and you start to look at some of the metrics, like his sack numbers were huge, his TFLs were huge, but in terms of like pressure rate, pass rush win rate, I'll hit the football sounder for that one. He's not elite at all anymore compared to some of the Max Crosbys and Nick Bosa's and Myles Garrett's. Could the Vikings have decided? I mean, we've spent the last few months saying, you know what? Yeah, we'd for sure look to bring him back on like a 3-year deal. Could they be looking at it and saying, boy, by the time the Bears and the Jaguars, like he's going to hit the market, by the time these other teams get involved, we're talking about $23, $24 million a year, multi-year contract, at least 2 years guaranteed for a guy that's 29 years old. He's no longer an elite. When you look at some of the underlying stuff, is he going to be elite the next 2 years? What if they've decided internally, we're not that into a $60 million contract for Danielle Hunter? We haven't really talked about that possibility.
There is a possibility, but if you decided that, are you then going to bring Kirk back?
You probably shouldn't.
Like,
you should just probably lean into the
right, just
the getting younger side of the equation here.
Yeah.
Right?
This is probably to another bigger episode where we talked about this two type of paths on Purple Daily on Draft, which you're going to find on Monday afternoon too. But if the Vikings re-sign Kirk and Danielle, let's say, well, that means they have to replenish depth and replenish everything else in the draft, right? Like they will have to. They'll have next to no cap space to really make other impact moves. It's going to be very tough for them. However, the flip side of that, if Kirk and Danielle walk away and you maybe trade up for a quarterback, you would technically have a little bit more free agent space to replace some of that depth. So you can kind of take two different paths there. Which one is it? Do you want to re-sign and run it back, but then you're going to have to really nail a draft class? That puts a ton of pressure on Kwesi. Or would you rather supplement some of that stuff in free agency and maybe draft your rookie quarterback and start to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think the Wilfs are just sitting in the back room, right? They're sitting in the penthouse of TCO Performance Center, and they are deathly afraid of what would happen if you said goodbye to both Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter. To them, it would be, oh my God, there's no way we're going to compete to win a division and sneak into the playoffs and get beat at home by the Giants, right?
Right.
And I would just tell them the fans aren't going to go anywhere. If that's the decision that the people you hired to run your organization are making, saying, listen, like, for us to maximize our chances to win a championship in a 3 to 5 year window, we may have to just sort of reset things a little bit in 2024. Okay, then aim for a 3-year window. But until proven otherwise, this ownership group is obsessed with just short-term, bridge of your nose thinking. How can we scrape together enough coins out of the couch cushions to get one more free agent over here and bring Kirk back? And like, that's how they've operated for the last 6 years.
So what's the goal here, though? Like, we just watched a Super Bowl last night between two really good teams, and we sort of saw what it takes. Now, Mahomes puts the Chiefs in a different stratosphere, but let's just take San Francisco. And we sort of saw what that takes, okay? So, like, let's say you do bring guys back and you run this thing back. Ultimately, is the answer to my question, you know what, we just want to be able to win the division or have a chance to win the division every season. Because there's nothing, if you bring back Hunter and Cousins and you nail the draft class, you still don't have enough depth on both sides of the football, especially defense, to be where San Francisco is.
And also, like, there's a whole draft part of this conversation too, which is, you went and we went over it on a couple different episodes this last week. When you whiff on 4 straight drafts, basically, and I'm not even talking about 2022, which was a 5th whiff after a pretty good 2021 draft. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs have the youngest defense of a Super Bowl winner in recent NFL history. They've nailed some draft picks on offense. Pacheco and Rashee Rice are both first and second year players. They've nailed a couple drafts here when most teams after the quarterback rookie scale contract runs out have to make tough decisions on guys like Tyreek Hill, and then they go into a lull for a while. The Chiefs landed like 8 or 9 impactful players over 2 drafts, and they've maintained a dynasty through Patrick Mahomes having the biggest cap hit in the NFL. So we shouldn't let the Vikings front out, like whether they do or don't bring Kirk Cousins back, they have to be better in these drafts. Land some impactful defensive players, for God's sakes. Like land an edge rusher, land a defensive tackle for the first time in however many years.
Right. Well, I mean, hell, Pacheco, what, 6th round draft pick, right?
6th or 7th, yeah.
But I mean, that's where you find your running back. Like that's the and that's the thing is the Chiefs have sort of perfected the art. But I'm just saying, as far as the normal team, i.e., San Fran, gets a quarterback on a rookie contract. Now, in Purdy's case, it's incredibly cheap because he's the last pick of his draft class. But the point is they have room to build around. I don't know. We always discuss this, but I don't know what the Wilfs like. I know they want to be competitive and I know they want to make the playoffs, but do they watch that game last night and still hold on to their Giants if you just make the tournament? Like, how do you watch that game and say, if you just make it, you're like, you know what? You're probably fortunate, the normal team, to win a playoff game.
I have a nugget about this for the second episode of Purple Daily today, which is essentially, if you're watching that game last night and you even go back multiple Super Bowls, there should be a couple very clear paths that you're aiming for here. And so we'll get into that on the second episode of Purple Daily today. I do have a mock draft for you guys before we go away here.
Mock!
Presented by our friends at Zero Res, helping to deep clean your homes. When's the last time you did more than just vacuum and like a light dusting, okay? You might be living in filth and you don't even know it. Call Zero Res today. Ask for the Score North special, which is 3 rooms, 0 resified, starting at just $119 and a free hallway as well. And you can also take $75 off when you get your air ducts Zero Res clean. That's 952-0-RES or ZeroResMinnesota.com. Say you want the Score North special. Spell it forward or backwards. It spells the same. Zero Res. We have a 3-round mock from The Athletic today, dudes.
Here we go.
All right.
3 rounds.
Here we go.
Just busting out of the gate here. Nick Baumgardner is the mocker. Nicholas. All right. Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. Washington Commanders, Drake May. New England Patriots, Marvin Harrison Jr. Cardinals take Malik Neighbors, wide receiver LSU.
Oh, boy.
Chargers take Brock Bowers, the Georgia tight end. Giants take Joe Alt, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame. Titans take Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Tackle. And then the Falcons take Jaden Daniels with the 8th overall pick.
Okay.
It says this should be his floor in the draft. A team could jump Atlanta via trade, but they have him falling to 8. Interesting. So no trades here so far. I don't know if he has any trades. I'm not sure what Nick Baumgartner's game plan is here.
Nick, you got to have trades, dude. You got to make trades.
Nicky. Chicago Bears take Rome Odunze, the wide receiver from Washington. The Jets take J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle from Bama. And that puts the Vikings on the clock at 11. Give you some chimes. That's right. Where they select out of the University of Alabama edge rusher Dallas Turner.
I want a mock!
I'll read you the write-up here. Hunter is about to hit free agency, so while Flores did a great job for the Vikings last year, he does need help. Turner is 6'4", 252 pounds, the most athletic edge in the draft with a ton of twitch and burst.
Oh, I love twitch.
Football.
Burst too, but especially twitch.
Yeah. Not dissimilar to Will Anderson Jr., his ex-Alabama teammate. Quarterback could also be in play here. And then J.J. McCarthy goes right after this to the Broncos at 12.
Oh, interesting. Now, again, I got to think that if Jaden Daniels starts to fall that much,
Someone's going up.
And the Chargers are bailing on the pick, right? Like, think about what the Chargers could get. If Jaden Daniels is there at 5, are you going to take a player, or are you going to say, you know what, we're going to get an absolute haul in a trade?
So here's the rest. Okay, here's the second round. So no other quarterbacks. So 4 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks with J.J. McCarthy.
Okay.
And then Bo Nix goes 34 to the Patriots.
He seems like a Patriot.
He does seem like a Patriot. If you were to guess, who does
Bo
this guy
Nix
look
and
like?
Mac Jones in downtown Boston.
God.
Sam Adams.
And then with the 42nd overall pick, the Minnesota Vikings, according to The Athletic, select Michael Penix Jr. from Washington.
I want a mock.
Says we'll see what happens with Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings have too much talent on offense to waste more time with uncertainty at quarterback. Penix had a worse Senior Bowl week than Nix, frankly, but he was the most confident vertical passer in America last year and showed terrific toughness and perseverance throughout his college career. There you go.
Bo Nix, Mac Jones, stopping at Dunkin' every morning when they carpool to the facility. I could see it. Bo Nix and Mac Jones, just 2 quarterbacks slinging it. I'm getting farther and farther away from the second round thing, the Penix thing.
You're out on Penix? We are all very excited. That semifinal game.
Nope. I'm not out. I'm just getting I'm trying to think of what the Vikings would do. Like, I guess if Jaden Daniels starts to fall, I have a hard time believing that there's not serious competition that includes them to go up and get him. Like, if he gets past 3 and then 4, and now the Chargers at 5, the Chargers have a quarterback. They've got, they've definitely got some needs that they could fill with more draft picks. I'm not out on Penix. I'm more out on the scenario that the Vikings would just wait until the second round.
Yeah, you pick up the phone. You pick up the phone. Have you guys seen the trend with millennials and or Gen Zers of how they answer phones on TikTok? How do you guys with your hand signal? How would you answer your phone?
I don't answer my phone.
Okay, but play along with my game here, if you will. How would you answer your phone with your hand?
With just your hand?
The universal sign. Yeah, just your hand. I want to do an experiment now with you guys.
What do you mean? Like, how would I pick up my phone?
Yeah.
Or?
What's the universal sign to your hand from your ear to your face without touching your phone? Without touching your phone.
Like
what is
this
the sign
right here?
Like that.
Oh, okay.
Judd, how would you do? Would you do the same thing?
Maybe. I don't even know if I have one.
Apparently, Gen Zers do this because they don't know what an actual
the
old
handheld
school handset phone.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They're going like this, where everyone millennials.
So for the audio audience, the sign I'm using is like the thumb up and the pinky out, right?
Yep. Old school.
So millennials are using a flat hand.
Flat hand.
But I'm a millennial though.
No.
You're a millennial.
Hold on a second.
Gen Zers.
So millennials, we do this. Gen Zers do the hand.
Because they only grew up with actual iPhones. Like their first phone, my first phone was a flip phone. I called my dad from a payphone to pick me up one time. Like that.
Yeah.
They do this. Everyone else does this. So I'm picking up the phone, Quasey. I'm doing this. There's no Gen Z talking.
Do people like way back, if you were like born in the early 1900s and your first phone in the 1930s, like you're grabbing the
hello 412 please.
See? They had party lines, right? Where you'd be like one of 20 different families would be sharing the same line or whatever it was. You could
those stories.
Yep.
You pick up the phone and listen on someone's conversation, which is what they're doing to you right now, anyways, Judd.
That's
the government.
Yeah, that's right. Where's my tinfoil hat?
So, all right, Michael Penix in the second round there from The Athletic. And that's your mock for the day.
More trades and mocks, please. More trades and mocks. I'm getting very tired of all of these people doing it by
I want to
numbers.
see, also, if you're going to do these 7-round mockers where you're just do trades. Because you know how many trades happen on the third day of the draft? Everyone's just slicing and dicing. Vikings move back 9 different times, pick up some extra 7th-round picks.
I would prefer that you do if you are going to do 3 rounds, I would prefer that you do just 1 round and make trades. Like 3 rounds to me is useless unless you're going to make trades.
Sure.
So if you're like, well, I don't have the time to do 3 rounds, then I'd say, okay, then just do 1, but make trades in the first round.
They do have Spencer Rattler as the next quarterback coming off the board, 77th to the Raiders, and then Michael Pratt from Tulane to the Seahawks in the 3rd round too.
Yeah, I think
so that would be 6, 8 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds.
Well, and like I said, the word on the street, if you keep your ear to the ground, is that the 2025 QB draft is not seen as that strong. So
Yeah.
I do think that's going to create an urgency, good or bad. It might be bad, but it's going to create more of an urgency to take quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, no, that makes some sense. So, okay, we're going to get a second episode also posted here today, anywhere you find Purple Daily, in which I will give you some quarterback stuff that might shock you. Maybe not. It shouldn't shock you anyways, like you guys, because we've been talking about this stuff. But be on the lookout for a second episode, and also a Score North Twin Show. The Twins made a trade this weekend, so we'll talk about that on the Score North Twin Show. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.